Hey, what's going on everybody? Alex here with Freedom Mowers. I hope you all are doing well. Today we got something really cool, or at least I think it's really cool, and it should be a new addition to the stable here of my personal tractors, and that is Craftsman GT 6000, I believe around a 93 or 94. This has the Kohler Magnum 18 horse opposed twin on it, 6-speed high and low. This was actually someone else's tow rig that they have this pretty sweet sleeve hitch set up on here. We're going to check everything out more in depth as we go. I've got to get this thing moved across the yard over to my tools, and Lionel is yelling at us. But yeah, this thing has a pretty sweet hitch set up on it with winch for trailer or towing mowers. We have wheel weights in the back, wheel weights in the front. We got to get it across the yard over to the shop. So I have the Sears Suburban out today. We're going to be towing that across the yard, and hopefully we can get this thing going. I really don't know much about it other than they said that it was running and driving when it was parked, but that was about 10 years ago. It has been under a cover and has been stored, so hopefully we can get this thing going. We made it over here to the shop. This thing weighs a ton. I ended up getting it at least pulled over here and then kind of let it roll down the hill, but this thing is a beast. Like I said earlier, Magnum twin opposed, 18 horse. This has the, I don't think it came like this, but this has a full-size car battery in it. I'm assuming to hold the power for the winch and everything as well. You know, I said earlier with the wheel weights, we also have ag tires on the rear. I mean, this thing is pretty well set up, so I'm really excited about this. Hopefully this engine's good. I didn't even try to jump it when I was there. I actually got a couple other pieces of equipment from this family last year, and they were super nice, and he didn't really know much about it other than it was his wife's dad's. He used it up until he couldn't use it any longer, and then it was parked. I believe them on it, so we'll see what we got. I'm gonna get y'all set up on the tripod. We're just gonna quickly check the oil, the air filter, and then we can just kind of go from there and see if we can at least get it turning over and see what happens. The oil is definitely dark, but it did look like it was up to the full mark. So we are right up to the top. It's not black, but it's pretty dark. So we at least have good oil in here. What do you guys think about these old Kohler Magnums? I have a Magnum on the Sears Custom 7 that I have, and man, that thing runs smooth. That one's the Magnum 12 horse, and that one is a horizontal shaft. Air filter really doesn't look bad at all on here. Pre-filter's got some dust on it, but we'll just go ahead and rest that on the top for now. I'll leave the cover off, see what we got. Like I said, I did turn this over. It had good compression. I didn't feel anything abnormal on it. We'll get the jumper pack set up and see if we are at least turning over. All right, pack is hooked up. I think I've got a decent connection. Make sure we're in neutral. And we got a whole lot of nothing. All right, check for the safety switches. There's no safety switch on the clutch, so that's probably been bypassed. I don't even know where the wires would have been for that. There's definitely some stuff added in here for the winch. You can check the fuse. Fuse is not blown from what I can tell. I'll get the multimeter out. I'm gonna get this pulled in the shop so we're out of the sun and we can get a better view as to what's going on, and we'll start seeing what we got going on with this wiring. Let's see if we can get at least a good baseline on things. So we are at 12.7 right from the battery. See if we're getting down to the starter here, or the starter solenoid. We are good there. I'm gonna go ahead and put the positive right there on our signal wire to the solenoid. That will let us know if we're getting power from the key switch. So we got nothing from the key switch. So let's move over there and see what we got. I may just end up going ahead and taking this battery out. That way we can see everything back there and we can get good connections on our posts. Alright, I got that battery pulled out and I've got our leads hooked back up. So real quick, I will go ahead and test to make sure we still have voltage going to one side of the starter solenoid. Alright, so we got 12.7, so we're good. So we got good contact again on the battery cable, so now we can really start to look into things. So the wire that's coming off from this our signal wire is actually a white wire. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull the harness off from the plug. Let me see if we're getting power anywhere. So we've got red here, that's black, so that's ground, more than likely. Our white wire should only get 12 volts once the key switch is put in the actual run position. So let's see where our reds go. So there is one red wire disconnected over here, which actually goes to our amp meter. So normally your amp meter, you have to have power flowing through it. So let me turn the key off. I'm going to plug this red wire into the amp meter, go back onto the run position, and check our hot side. So we still don't have anything there. Just make sure I've got good connections here. Alright, so I had to do a little investigation. I didn't realize that there was still a separate wire, which is actually a red wire, but it was yellow, and it was also separately plugged into the key switch. We have 12 volts going there, so we can plug. Let me turn the key switch back off because I don't want to short anything out. It looks like this harness was burned at some point, so that's why they had to put in this separate one, because that all should have been part of it. So that's plugged in. So we may end up having power now with that amp meter plugged in. Oh my Lord. I had phone call after phone call today. Alright, so turn back on. Alright, so now we are getting 12 volts at our red wires, and our white wire. Let's see what we got going on here. Alright. Well, we've got 12 volts to the starter now. Make sure y'all can see. Let me get you guys in position, see if we can turn this over for a minute with the key. So we definitely have 12 volts now. Awesome. So we are turning over with the key. Let's see what we've got here for fuel. It looks like it's bone dry. So let's go ahead and just give, I guess, a little squirt maybe of some fuel down in the cylinder. Let me get set up here with my 2-stroke fuel mix, and we'll put a little bit down the throat of the carb and see what happens. What do you guys think? You think it'll fire off? You think we got spark on both cylinders? We're about to find out. Put a little 2-stroke mix in there. And do we have a choke? We have a manual choke on here, which seems to be working. All right, here we go. Let's try it with the choke off. Let me try to add just a little bit more fuel in there. I may end up having spark issues. Here we go. Try it with the choke on. Got nothing. All right, well, let's see. I didn't have much in my can. Let's just give it just a shot of some starting fluid. And if this doesn't go, then we'll check for a spark with the tester. Oh, we got spark, baby. I guess I didn't get enough fuel down in there. I mean, I put a splash, but it might not have pulled it in. Well, let me get a little bit more fuel, and maybe we can try to bottle feed it for a second and make sure we're firing on both. All right, well, let's give it a little bit more this time. I'll give it some, and then I'll tilt the bottle if it fires up, and we'll try to feed it. She fired right up, boys. That's awesome. I am pumped about that. Literally just had to see what was going on with that key switch, and then we had the amp meter, which I have no idea if this thing even works. The screen is so yellowed out. Man, that is awesome. What do y'all think we should do? Try to put some fuel in the tank and see if we are getting fuel up to, I guess we could just put some fuel in, crank it a few times, see if we can get the fuel priming out of the pump, and then we can hook it up to the carburetor and see. I'm only guessing that this carburetor is going to be a bit gummed up after sitting for at least probably 8 to 10 years. I forgot to show you guys as well, the battery that was in here was from 2012, so you know, we're 14 years later after that battery was installed. Man, I am so pumped. Well, let me get some gas in the tank and get you guys set up, and we'll see if we're pumping some fuel out of the fuel pump. All right, and I did get a decent amount of fuel in the tank. I didn't see any leaks going on. So the way that this pump is set up, because this is not the factory fuel pump on here, I saw this before, but so our fuel line going to the carburetor, the fitting is actually like all the way up underneath, so that's gonna be hard to get. So what I'm gonna do is clip the zip tie, and I'll go ahead and add this piece of fuel hose on there, and then we can just put a bucket down below, just see if we're pumping. The way that they set this one up was they put a fitting on the actual oil tube. That way we can get crankcase pressure to get the fuel pump pumping. So let me get that clipped, and I'll get the fuel hose on, and I'll show you guys trying to see if we can get some fuel pumping. I'm not seeing anything yet. There we go. Go ahead and give it one more turn. I don't want to get that starter too hot. All right. There must have been some fuel in there because I know my gas is not that yellow. But I don't see any moisture in there. So at this point, I will go ahead and take that fuel line back off and we can hook it up to the carb. And we'll crank it over for a minute and see if we can get something to happen. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of fuel down in here to see if we can kind of help prime this thing. If it will run, I'm only guessing we're going to have to clean the carb on this, but we shall see. You know, 10 years ago they might have been using ethanol free. That's running on its own. Woo. A bit smoky in here. Man, I can't believe that. I was trying to see if our charging system was working too. Didn't appear to be, but I don't know if I have good connections on there or what. That is awesome. If you guys are liking this kind of content, maybe think about hitting that subscribe button. I really appreciate y'all stopping by. I am super pumped that we've got this thing running in a matter of like 20-30 minutes, just checking over some wiring and making sure we're getting fuel. But yeah. Alright. I don't know which gears are what on here. See if we can find reverse. So we should be in low. That's neutral. That's high. So we'll check low. Maybe that one's reverse. Nope. That's forward. Here goes the jumper pack. Alright. So that's reverse. That's probably first. I don't know which one's second or third. Let me put the jumper pack back on. See if our winch works. There's a whole lot of water down in there. I'm getting nothing at the winch. So reverse was over here. Alright. That's forward. So that's low range. That's high. Oh yeah. So those all work. so all gears seem like they're working. We'll pull this outside. Oh man, that is awesome. That thing runs so smooth. That runs just like the other Kohler Magnum I've got. They're just so quiet and smooth. Man, I am pumped. All right, and I think before I try to take this around cruising, I want to hook the jumper pack to it and see if we can at least get the winch to work. And maybe we can just take a look at the switch panel and see if it's just corrosion on there. I don't know. But let me hook this up and we'll see if we can get some movement out of here, and then we can kind of troubleshoot that. Because I feel like if we can get this winch working, we can just do it all together. Because I'd like to go see if we can pull a trailer around the yard. Alright, so we got our positive. We should just be able to ground the case. Works like a champ. So I think you reverse these, is that right? Never even used a winch before. Yep. So our winch is working just fine. Let's come up here and take a look at this switch panel. Alright, I got us back set up with our meter. We are at, alright, 12.75. Alright, 12.75. We got our battery and we are at 12.75 up here at the switch. Now, I'm trying to get on this switch to see if it makes any difference or not when I hit the button. It's all over the place, so I'm not sure. I think what we'll do is I'll go ahead and just take this off. We'll clean the contacts, I'll blow this out and see if we can get anything through that. Alright, well I did check the contacts. I tried to re-snug everything back down, but I saw that I could take the switch box apart, and this was what was inside. So I don't know if you guys can tell, I don't think these contacts are going to be working very well in that kind of condition. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get all this cleaned off, and we'll try to reassemble and see what we get. But yeah, it's just basically just contacts that rock back and forth, and there's just a ton of water and sludge in here. So I'm going to get it cleaned up and we'll see what happens. Alright, and it is next day. Unfortunately, I am not going to be able to repair this switch box. The top side I was able to get all cleaned up, but inside where those little plates are, I was able to get them clean, but there are springs in each one, or underneath of each one of these bars, and I tried to make my own spring on the one I've got my fingers on, but the other spring's bad. One of the other springs on the other plate is bad. And there's also supposed to be springs on top of each one of these that hold the button in the up position. That way when you press it down, it'll return. And all of those were totally rusted out. So this switch board is bad. Now I was able to go ahead and grab a new controller off from another machine I have. Hopefully this works. I've never tested it before, so we will get that figured out. The ends right here that are still on are the leads that go to the winch, and then I ended up having to cut the leads off that went to the battery on the other machine because they were so corroded. But I just went to the store and got some new terminals, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the new terminals on. I'm gonna take off that old wiring, and we're just gonna at least hook up the ends to the jumper pack and to the winch, test out the controller, and then we can figure out routing on here to make it look a little cleaner if everything works good. All right, and just took me a couple of minutes. I got the leads hooked up to the winch, and I've got the new leads hooked up. Got our jumper pack. I did go ahead and test it out, and this thing works awesome. Super sweet. I'm excited. So at this point, I'll go ahead and just disconnect the old wiring. He has some loom on there and some clamps, and I'm just going to go ahead and reroute basically the setup that he had on here, and I'll find out a spot where I can put the controller. This is just going to be temporary till I can figure out a better mounting. I just took some strap and used the existing holes that he already had drilled in, but it is going to hold it just fine, and we should be all set. I did kind of start moving ahead a little bit just because I think that we were supposed to be getting some rain today, and I would like to get this thing going so we can test everything out. I put the air box back on, and I did, because that full-size battery that was in here is definitely toast. I have another mower battery. It doesn't have much for cold cranking amps, but it does hold a charge, so if we can get our charging system, make sure that that's working, it'll definitely work just fine just to run it around and test everything out. So we're going to go ahead and jump off with the jump box. We're going to test this charging system, and if it's working, then we're going to take this thing across the yard. I'm going to see if I can pick up my little 5x8 trailer with it, and we're also going to see if we can move maybe one of these mowers around a little bit, just test it all out. So all right, well, it is next day. We got torrential downpour yesterday, but we are going to do some testing. I've got actually my 6x10. I was going to say the 5x8, but I've got this pretty well loaded down with some lumber. I am in the process of rebuilding our new shop, and I think this will be a pretty good test. I don't know how much weight's on there, but we're going to see if it'll do it. I got it in first gear and low. It's been sitting there a few weeks too, so it was in a hole. Go ahead and back it back into the spot. Like butter. Awesome. All right, well, let's go over and see. Maybe we can pull that Skag zero turn out of the hole over there with the front end with a strap. All right, got it over here. I was gonna pull the Skag, but I think we'll try to just pull the Cub Cadet Super LT 1550. This thing is a beast. It's got the 50-inch deck, and it's got a big Kohler twin on it, so plenty of weight to try to test this. I got to disengage the hydros. So I'm gonna get it hooked up, get y'all on a tripod, and we'll see if it'll pull it out of this hole. You guys can see this thing was basically buried in the ground. I think we actually don't have any flat tires, so that would help it roll a little easier. But it pulled it up that hill out of the ground, no problem. We'll pull it up a little bit farther. We got a little bit more hill. We'll see if it'll do it at almost an idle. Bring up the RPM just a hair. Pulls it no problem at all. Awesome. All right, well, I think that is pretty much going to do it on this machine on this episode. We are going to do a follow-up on this. There's going to be some more stuff coming with it. I would like to possibly add some lights to it. We're going to try to get everything cleaned up. We got a lot of greasing, going through the wiring on here just to make sure all the corrosion is gone, but everything works exactly like it's supposed to all the time. But I am super pumped. We got this thing running, made sure it's charging. We got the winch working. I mean, it pulls like a tank, and it's just a super cool tractor. I'm really excited about that. So as always, I really appreciate you guys stopping by the channel. We have been growing like crazy lately, and I thank each and every one of y'all for stopping by and supporting the channel. It means a ton to me. I try to respond to all the comments the best that I can, and just love hearing your guys' tips and suggestions, and just all the support. So on that note, let freedom ring, let those small engines sing. I'll see you all in the next one.